Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new around here, welcome. My name is Becca. I'm a registered dietitian and I make lots of content here on my channel about nutrition, wellness, non-toxic living, intuitive eating, a little bit of motherhood. And in today's video, I am going to be diving into a really popular nutrition topic, and that is supplements. There are always so many questions surrounding supplements. Should you be taking them? If so, what should you be taking? What brands are good? Which are not good? You know, what should I be spending my money on? So many questions, and there seems to be a lot of confusion around supplements as well. And honestly, that is because there is no clear-cut answer. Everything is so individualized when it comes to nutrients or supplementation of nutrients, because everyone's bodies are really different, everyone's diets are different, everyone's biochemistry is slightly different, so we're all going to have different needs when it comes to what we can supplement to benefit our bodies. So when I was in school to become a dietitian, we were always taught that as long as your diet is well-rounded and balanced, you're really not going to need any kind of supplements. But honestly, now I don't really agree with that. I do think there's a time and a place for supplementation of certain nutrients, and they can be really beneficial and therapeutic. However, you guys, it is important to be aware of the fact that the supplement industry, you know, it's like $1 billion+ industry. They make so much money every year, and a lot of times you'll see on supplements, you know, these claims that aren't totally backed by, you know, science and research, and you end up having all these people who are buying these supplements based on these lofty claims, and they may not even need them. Their body may not even need that supplement. It just sounds good, so they end up buying it. So there's a lot of marketing and a lot of like sneakiness that happens. And I do think that that's where the pushback comes from the nutrition community. However, I do think that there is a middle ground here where supplements can be very therapeutic and they can be super beneficial. But the most important thing is that you're getting the supplements and you're taking the supplements that are actually going to benefit you based on your individualized needs. So how do you figure out what your needs are? Now, again, this is not something that is super cut and dry, but you can always meet with a registered dietitian who can actually look at your diet, take a deeper look at what you're actually consuming on a regular basis, and be able to potentially identify some nutrient gaps in which supplementation could help with. You can also talk to your doctor, and you can have nutrient like labs done, like blood work done, which can help identify some potential, you know, deficiencies, or maybe some nutrients that you are a little bit low in, maybe not quite deficient. And that can be really helpful too. You can't necessarily look up every single nutrient on in blood work, because depending on how the body utilizes it, the blood may not affect, or I'm sorry, the blood may not reflect the actual like status of that nutrient in your body. But it is a good start, and there is a lot that you can, you know, determine your levels perfectly through blood work. So outside of just doing your own research and knowing your own body, those are the two best ways to kind of identify any gaps you may have, and therefore places that you could benefit from supplementation. Now, that is probably not exactly the answer you wanted to hear. You probably just want to hear me say, take X, Y, and Z, call it a day, and you're good to go. But honestly, I cannot do that because everyone's needs are so individualized. That being said, however, I am going to give you guys a list of a few supplements that I think the general population could benefit from taking if they choose to do so on a daily basis as far as supplements go. And then I'm also going to give you guys another short list of a few different supplements that I think are definitely worth considering taking on top of, you know, the more basic supplements I'm going to share with you. And I will be listing some different supplements down in the description box, basically just different brands of supplements that I like and I stand behind in like each of the different categories I'm going to talk about. So that can help, you know, give you a recommendation if you're looking for one of these, or at the very least, it can just be a good starting point for you to do your own research and find which brands are going to work best for you. Okay, so let's get started. So the very first supplement that I think most people can benefit from taking is a pretty obvious one, and that is a multivitamin or a prenatal if you are a woman in childbearing age. So multivitamin, you know, the name kind of says it all. It is a supplement that contains a bunch of different minerals and vitamins, and it kind of acts as just a general supplement to supplement your diet. So it will have, you know, vitamin A, D3, it will have B vitamins, iron, zinc, calcium, things like that, magnesium. It's gonna have a whole host of different vitamins and minerals that the body needs in order to carry out all different kinds of functions. Now, prenatal is the exact same idea, but it's going to have slightly different levels depending on the nutrient. It may have different levels in order to support pregnancy. However, I will say if you are a woman of childbearing age, I don't think it's a bad idea to just straight up be on a prenatal instead of a multivitamin. Even if you're not like actively trying to get pregnant, but especially if you are trying to get pregnant, you want to be on a prenatal, because it's just, you just never know, and there's a lot of development that happens in very early pregnancy before you even find out that you're pregnant. So especially with like folate levels, so it's not a bad idea to look into just being on a prenatal versus a multivitamin if that is the stage of life that you are currently in. And one more tidbit about multivitamins, this kind of goes for all supplements, but especially for multivitamins, I always recommend people go for a whole food or like a food-based supplement, which means all of the nutrients that are in there are actually extracted straight from food and they're not synthetically made. Your body will absorb those better, and it's just a more natural way. You're getting them in their true natural form versus the lab-made version. So I always recommend that you go for a whole food or food-based supplement. Okay, number 2 is an omega-3 supplement, or also known as fish oil. Omega-3s play a very important role in different areas of the body, our hearts, brains, as well as they're really good for decreasing overall inflammation in the body. It is currently recommended that everyone consume seafood at least 2 times a week, especially like fatty fish, because they are rich in omega-3s. They're a really good dietary source of those fatty acids. They're also pretty high in walnuts, chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, those kinds of things. But most people probably aren't eating tons of those seeds or also that much seafood. So if that is you, it is a good idea to look into an omega-3 supplement. Like I said, they have important roles throughout different parts of the body, but one of the biggest things is when it comes to inflammation. So we need a really good ratio of omega-6 fats to omega-3 fats. We need both. However, omega-6 fats unfortunately are pro-inflammatory, meaning they can raise inflammation levels in the body. In a perfect world, we would have like a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3s. But at least here in America, with the standard American diet and all of the processed vegetable oils, we have more, like up to potentially like 25-to-1 omega-6 to omega-3, which is really far off from 1-to-1. So it may not be a bad idea for most people to be supplementing with omega-3s. And just a tip, when you're looking for supplements, you want to make sure that they have most of the omega-3s are coming from specifically EPA and DHA. A lot of times you'll see listed like other omega-3s, and that might be like majority of what's in there, and then there's just a little bit of EPA and DHA. You want that to be flipped. You want most of the omega-3s in that supplement to be coming strictly in as EPA and DHA. Number 3 is a probiotic. I have actually done an entire video on probiotics. I've also done a whole video on gut health here on my channel, so I won't dive too deep here. You can hear so much more information in those videos. But basically, a probiotic is a supplemental live bacteria strains. They are similar to the bacteria strains that will naturally be found in our gut. Now, it's a good idea for most people to be taking a probiotic because we want a really robust, diverse microflora, meaning the microbiome, the community of bacteria that we have in our guts. We really want that to be flourishing and diverse, and taking a probiotic supplement that has all different kinds of bacteria strains can really help to repopulate and diversify all of the bacteria that is down in our guts. You can get probiotics or these, beneficial bacteria strains from food, fermented foods specifically. So yogurt is a big one, and most people do consume yogurt, but the others are like sauerkraut and kimchi and kombucha, things like that, these foods that are fermented. We just don't consume them in our diet very often, whereas our ancestors, they were staples in their diet and they consumed them in large amounts and on a very regular basis, which is why we didn't used to supplement with probiotics. But nowadays, those foods are not very common in our staple diet, so it is a good idea for us to be supplementing with probiotics to just help out that gut bacteria down there. Okay, number 4 is vitamin D3. This is a vitamin that is very important for the body. It is present in so many different functions and is a key player in a lot of the different roles that the body has. So for example, it is huge in bone mineralization, meaning like the structure and the building of our bones. Also hormone balance, our gut, our brain, immune system. It really is, it has so many different areas in the body that it's necessary for. Now here's the thing, we can actually synthesize vitamin D from sunlight. So if you are someone who spends at least 20 minutes or so outside every single day with keyword no SPF, no sunscreen on, because that blocks the rays that we use to synthesize the vitamin D. So if you're spending time outside without any sunscreen on and you're doing so on a regular basis, you probably have pretty good or at least adequate levels of vitamin D. But that is not the case for most people, at least not all year round. That may be the case for a lot of people in summertime, in the warmer months, but if you live in certain climates, you may not be able to get like hardly any at all during the winter. So this could be something that you could definitely look into supplementing. The good news about vitamin D is you can easily find out what your levels are just with a blood test. You can find out if, where you land as far as on the spectrum of how much vitamin D you have in your body. Getting it from the sun is definitely the best. It's the way that our body is designed to get vitamin D, and there's even some studies to show that the vitamin D that's synthesized from the sun is circulating in our blood much longer than the vitamin D that we can get from supplements. Either way you get it, just get it. If you can't get out in the sun, or if you live in a climate where it's winter and you're not out in the sun, which is so many people, then you may just need a seasonal supplement. I always supplement vitamin D in the winter. I'm a lot more lax about it in the summer because I'm out in the sun a lot. And now the fifth nutrient I think most people could benefit from supplementing is vitamin K2. You don't hear much about vitamin K2, it's not talked about a lot, but luckily it is being talked about more and more, and it is so important. It is different than vitamin K1, or you just typically it's just referred to as vitamin K. That has to do with blood clotting factors. It is a totally separate vitamin K, and it has different roles in the body. One of its most important roles, and this is a big one, is it keeps calcium from depositing in the arteries of our heart. We do not want calcium crystallizing our arteries and making them hard and rigid. We want arteries that are flexible, that can expand and contract and deal with different levels of blood flow and blood pressure. That's what we want. That is a healthy heart. A hard, crystallized heart is not healthy. So it is so important that we are getting K2. Now here's the thing. We used to have K2 abundant in our diet, but in the standard American diet, at least, it is almost completely vanished, and no one is consuming vitamin K2 unless you are consuming animal products that are from pastured animals. So for example, chicken and eggs that come from pasture-raised hens, beef and dairy products that come from cows that are raised on pasture and consume only grass. These food sources are going to be rich in vitamin K2, and they are a great source of vitamin K2. But most of our dairy products, most of our chicken and eggs and beef and all of those things do not come from pasture-raised animals. They come from feedlots, and they're consuming like corn and soy type feed, and they don't consume grass, which is what they're meant to consume, so they don't actually ever create or synthesize the vitamin K2 that then gets passed on to the animal products that we would then consume. So if you are not really consuming these foods, or at least on a regular basis, I would definitely look into a vitamin K supplement. I do consume these foods, but I still choose to supplement with vitamin K2. I have a spray that has D and K2 in it. I'll link it down below, and that's what I take. But this is a big one, and it is not talked about enough, and especially with the crazy rates of heart disease in our country, in the US. Of course, a lot of different things can cause that, but having calcium in your arteries is no good, and if we can, supplement or choose our foods that we eat on a consistent basis to keep that from happening as much as possible, that's a very good thing. Okay, now I want to switch gears and talk about supplements that I think are worth considering. They're not necessarily like your basic staple supplements that most people would benefit from, but they are definitely some important ones that are worth considering. The first one is iron. For women especially, a lot of times we are low in iron, and that is because we menstruate and we lose a lot of blood every single month, and out goes a lot of our iron. So the good thing about iron is you can have a blood test and you can find out where your levels are, and it's really simple to find out whether or not you need to be supplementing it. But iron is really important. In fact, it's critical and what is necessary for oxygen to be transported all around the body. So if we have low levels of iron, we can feel sluggish, our energy levels can be off, and nobody wants that. So we want to make sure that we have adequate levels. So it's a good idea to have your levels checked, especially if you feel like something is off and your energy levels are low. And it's definitely something to keep tabs on while you're pregnant, because our need for iron goes way up. So you want to make sure that you're bringing in enough to sustain both your baby and your levels. The second one is calcium. Again, for women especially, calcium can be really important. As women, especially in like younger women, like teenage years, we typically don't consume enough calcium in the diet. That is just what research tells us. And also as women, we have a much higher risk of osteoporosis, not only because our intake is lower typically than men, but also because we have higher levels of estrogen, and there's a lot that's stacked against us when it comes to good bone mineralization. So calcium can be something that is worth supplementing. If you're not getting a ton of it in your diet, there are certain vegetables that are higher in calcium, but of course dairy products are a very rich source of calcium. A lot of things you'll see now, like juices and things like that, are fortified with calcium, which can help. It might not be quite as bioavailable because it's synthetic calcium versus calcium that's naturally occurring in food and like dairy products. But either way, you just want to make sure you're getting calcium, plenty of calcium in the diet. Now, super important, if you are taking any kind of calcium supplement or however you're getting it from food, you want to make sure that you are getting K2 in your diet as well, because especially if you're supplementing with a lot of calcium to help your body, you want that calcium to end up where it's supposed to go, in your bones, and not end up in your arteries and calcifying them. So super, super important. I feel like this doesn't get talked about. We throw around calcium supplements because a lot of times women are low, but we don't have the K2 conversation. K2 is critical. The third one I think that is worth considering is some kind of greens supplement, like a greens powder or like a super greens capsule, something like that. So for example, when I say greens, I mean spirulina and barley and kelp, alfalfa, these kinds of greens that are really rich in a lot of different, vitamins and minerals, but also antioxidants. The reason I think that these can be a good idea, depending on your diet, if you get in a ton of greens, maybe this isn't something for you. But the main reason I bring this up is because if you look at our ancestors' diets, they were not only rich in fruits and vegetables, but just the sheer quality of species of different fruits and vegetables that they consume they blow ours out of the water today. We eat so many less species of fruits and vegetables, specifically. And also nowadays our soil is more depleted and our produce just isn't what it was hundreds of years ago. So this can be a good idea just to help diversify the different greens that you're eating, the different vegetables that you're eating. And it can also, of course, help to bring in some vitamins and minerals as well. Does it replace a multivitamin? Definitely not. But again, it just kind of helps supplement and support and bring in more. So they can just kind of help to increase overall nutrient density, since our produce today maybe isn't as nutrient dense, definitely isn't as nutrient dense as it was many years ago. The fourth one I think worth considering is not necessarily a specific supplement, but any kind of supplement that's going to target inflammation in the body, target our oxidative stress levels, and typically this ends up being some kind of like high antioxidant supplement. So there's a few different ones. There's lots of different ones that you could take to target this. One of the more popular ones that people will take is like a curcumin supplement, which is one of the biggest substances that you'll find in turmeric. So like a turmeric supplement, it's basically, you can obviously cook with the spice and, eat it here and there, but taking a supplement is going to be much more powerful and pack a much higher punch when it comes to bringing in antioxidants and things that are going to help, decrease oxidative stress and inflammation in the body. I drink something called Ningxia Red. I get it from Young Living. It's like a goji berry puree essentially, and it's super high in antioxidants. That's what I like to take. And then another thing you could look into as well is adaptogens. Adaptogens are becoming a lot more popular. They don't necessarily directly, it's not necessarily, they can be high in antioxidants, but it's not so much a potent antioxidant thing that you'd be consuming. They more affect how our body responds to stress in the body, and if we're reducing our stress levels, we can help, reduce oxidative stress levels therefore, and that can help kind of reduce inflammation in the body as well. So just with our fast-paced lifestyle, and we're constantly under a lot of stress and just environmental toxins and toxins from products and all of this stress that's going on our bodies that we didn't have, a long time ago. We just live in a whole different world, and we tend to be in kind of like overdrive, and more specifically in like a fight or flight response all the time, when, fight or flight responses, all of the hormones and stress hormones that cascade that goes along with the fight or flight response is typically supposed to be used like at very acute moments throughout our life, very short-lived, like as if we're literally running away from a predator, not so much just our daily life. So I think it's a good idea to look into a supplement like this just to help our modern, bodies deal with all the stressors that's put on them, and that can affect inflammation and all of that. All right, so those are all of the supplements I wanted to share with you guys that I think, you know, are either good for most people to take or definitely worth considering to see if it's something that you might benefit from. Of course, you want to make sure to check with your doctor before starting any new supplement, but I hope that this video was helpful to you guys and, you know, maybe was able to clear up some of the murkiness around supplements, give you a little bit of direction as far as what you know, can take to benefit you. But always keep in mind that everyone's needs are totally different, and it is important, not only just, you know, for what you're spending your money on, but also important that whatever you're putting into your body is something that you actually need and is going to benefit you, and it's not, you're not just going off of like some lofty claim. But that's all I have for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe for new nutrition information. I've got some awesome ideas I'm going to be coming out with to teach you guys even more, go a little bit deeper. So make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Follow me on Instagram just to see what I'm up to on a daily basis, just in my personal life, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!